The stars over Earth had never seemed so alive. Commander Ethan Hale stood on the observation deck of the human spaceport, staring at the enormous vessel descending from the upper atmosphere. It was unlike any ship humanity had ever encountered. Its surface shimmered with a fluid metal sheen, changing colors as the sun struck it. This was no ordinary gift, no diplomatic envoy as Earth had ever received. This was the ship of the Zarathian Emperor, a ruler infamous throughout the galaxy for his cunning and his sense of humor that often teetered on cruelty. Ethan's orders were clear: meet the gift, ensure humanity's safety, and report back. Yet despite his training, he could not prepare himself for the wave of curiosity and anxiety that rushed through him. Humanity had made contact with aliens before, but the Zarathians were different. They were powerful, proud, and unpredictable. And now they were delivering a gift the Emperor himself promised would make humans uncomfortable. The hatch opened with a hiss, and the first figure appeared. She was tall, more so than Ethan had expected. Her presence filled the space with an energy that made even seasoned crew members take a half step back. She had a round, confident figure with a bright smile and eyes that sparkled with intelligence and mischief. Ethan had seen the Zarathian reports, the Emperor's descriptions, and yet nothing had prepared him for the reality of the person standing before him. "Commander Hale, I presume?" Her voice was melodic but firm, carrying authority that belonged to someone used to being listened to. "I am Princess Leora. I hope your journey was comfortable." The Emperor had sent her, he had claimed, as a joke. Her physical appearance was supposedly the very opposite of what humans would desire. Yet as Ethan watched her interact with his crew, laughing easily, answering questions with quick wit, and demonstrating a sharp understanding of human technology, he realized that her value was not in her appearance but in her mind, her courage, and her presence. She carried herself with a confidence that no mockery could diminish. They began a tour of the spaceport, and Leora asked questions about Earth's cultures, technology, and even military strategy. Ethan was impressed at how her curiosity was paired with insight. She seemed to understand not only the mechanics of the world around her, but the hearts of the people who built it. She noticed the smallest details, the way a technician handled a control panel, the way the young engineers spoke with pride about their work. She asked questions that revealed not just intelligence, but empathy. At lunch, she insisted on sitting with the human crew rather than staying isolated in a separate dining area. Ethan watched as she joked with the engineers, laughed at their clumsy attempts to impress her, and even joined in a game of zero-gravity catch. Laughter echoed through the room, and for the first time, many humans felt that they were not just entertaining an alien visitor, but engaging with someone who genuinely wanted to understand them. Ethan found himself drawn into conversation with her. They discussed strategy, science, and even philosophy. She asked questions about humanity's history, its triumphs and failures, and she listened intently as Ethan explained the hardships Earth had faced to become a spacefaring civilization. She did not judge or mock. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully, offering insights that revealed a mind accustomed to thinking in complex ways, yet never losing the joy of discovery. The Emperor's plan had been to embarrass humanity, to present a gift so unexpected that humans would recoil. But Ethan realized that the joke was failing spectacularly. Leora was not merely acceptable, she was remarkable. And as he watched her interact with the crew, he saw a lesson he already knew deep in his heart. Humans could see value where others could not. Humanity thrived not because of appearances or strength alone, but because of compassion, ingenuity, and the ability to recognize the worth in others. As the day progressed, Leora asked to see Earth itself. Ethan arranged for a short trip to the planet's surface, and as they descended through the atmosphere, she gasped at the sight of oceans, mountains, and forests. Her fascination was genuine. She asked questions about human settlements, about the ways people had learned to coexist with nature, and about the stories that shaped human culture. Ethan was struck by her ability to see beauty not just in the physical world, but in the ideas and efforts of the people who lived there. That evening, as they watched the sunset over a quiet valley, Leora spoke softly. "Your people are different from what I expected. I thought I would see weakness. Instead, I see creativity, courage, and a spirit that refuses to be crushed. It is inspiring. I think I understand now why my father thought sending me here would be amusing. He believed appearances define worth. But I see that humans, at least you, measure differently. You look for the essence of a person." Leora's presence was comforting, invigorating, and strangely challenging all at once. He realized that this meeting, meant to be a test or a joke, might be the start of something far more significant than either of them could have anticipated. Over the next few days, Ethan introduced Leora to various aspects of human life and society. She observed engineers working on spacecraft, joined in strategic planning sessions, and even participated in cultural ceremonies, learning human customs with an enthusiasm that was infectious. Everywhere she went, humans were charmed by her intelligence, humor, and sincerity. It became clear that her presence was not a source of embarrassment, as the Emperor had intended, but a bridge between species. During one quiet moment, Ethan found himself alone with Leora in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "Do you ever feel pressure being sent here like this?" he asked. She shrugged lightly. "Of course, my father believes this is a joke. Many Zorathians expect me to fail or embarrass myself, but I see this differently. This is an opportunity, not just for me, but for both of our peoples. I want to understand, to learn, to connect, and to find out what humans truly value. Humans care about what is inside, the choices people make, the courage they show, the way they treat others. That is the measure of worth here." Leora's arrival had the potential to change perceptions, to forge alliances, and perhaps to show both humans and Zorathians that worth cannot be measured by appearances alone. And in the quiet glow of the stars, he felt a spark of excitement, not only for the diplomatic possibilities, but for the unexpected connection forming between them. The days that followed were filled with laughter, discovery, and shared moments of quiet reflection. Leora quickly adapted to human ways, though she never lost her unique Zorathian perspective. She asked questions that challenged Ethan's assumptions, proposed ideas that surprised even his most experienced colleagues, and shared stories of her home world that were both fascinating and humorous. Humanity was seeing the Zorathians in a new light, and in the process, Ethan saw a side of himself he had never noticed, the joy of connecting with someone wholly different yet fundamentally similar in spirit. The Emperor's plan, intended to humiliate humanity, was unraveling. Leora's presence was not only accepted but celebrated. She became a symbol of potential, of unexpected friendship, and of the ways humans could embrace what others dismissed. And through it all, Ethan found himself thinking more and more about the remarkable individual who had arrived as a joke, but had already become indispensable in ways the Emperor could never foresee. By the end of the week, it was clear to everyone on the spaceport that Leora's impact would not be fleeting. Humans were intrigued, inspired, and in many ways enchanted by her presence. And Ethan, standing beside her as they watched another sunset, realized that this was only the beginning. The story of their connection, and of what humans valued most, was just starting, and the lessons it would teach both species promised to be profound, surprising, and in the true spirit of humanity, full of hope. Ethan woke early that morning to find Leora already in the observation deck, staring at the stars as if she were looking for something hidden among them. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long golden patterns on the floor, and for a moment Ethan simply watched her. She seemed small in the vast spaceport, yet her presence was commanding. She was humming softly, a tune that sounded almost like laughter trapped in melody. "Good morning," he said, stepping forward. She turned, smiling. "Good morning, Commander. I was thinking about the humans, about your world. There is so much I do not understand, yet I feel at home here. That is a strange mix, but it feels real. I have seen many Zorathians who hide everything, even from themselves." The engineers, initially hesitant, found themselves explaining concepts they had long taken for granted, and in turn learning from her unique perspective. "She's different," one young engineer whispered to his colleague. "She doesn't just look at the numbers, she thinks about why the numbers matter." Leora's questions were always intelligent, sometimes challenging, but never dismissive. She had a way of making people feel both valued and curious about themselves. When they reached the testing chamber, Leora's eyes widened at the sight of the enormous propulsion engine. "It is beautiful," she said softly. "All this power, yet so controlled. You have learned to shape energy rather than be shaped by it." The engineers scrambled, unsure how to fix it quickly without damaging the system. Leora stepped forward, examining the schematics Ethan had handed her. "Have you tried redirecting the auxiliary lines through the stabilizer circuit?" she asked. "It will reduce pressure enough to prevent further leakage while keeping the engine operational." Ethan, on the other hand, nodded. "Good idea, let's do it." Your team did the work. The humans had cultivated small green spaces, a reminder of Earth's natural beauty even in the midst of technology. Leora bent down to touch a cluster of bright flowers, inhaling their scent. You have life here, she said. Even in the most mechanical places, you honor it without depending on it completely. It is comforting to remember what we are protecting. I understand now why my father thought I might fail here. He believes courage is physical strength, but you show me it is something deeper. She described her training, her responsibilities, and the expectations placed upon her as the daughter of an emperor. Yet, even with such weight on her shoulders, she retained a sense of humor and a sharp mind. You expect me to be serious all the time? She asked one evening, leaning back in her chair during dinner. I can do that, but it is boring, and I am not boring. No, you are definitely not boring. You make us all feel alive. As they walked through the quiet halls, Leora's eyes lit up with fascination. So many stories, she whispered. So many lives lived in ways I could never have imagined. We survive together, fight together, and sometimes we fall in love. It is as important as any strategy or invention. What matters is what someone does and who they are inside. Leora was endlessly curious, asking questions that challenged Ethan's own beliefs and understanding. He found himself learning from her as much as she learned from him. In her presence, the world felt wider, richer, and more alive. By evening, they were standing on the terrace overlooking the city. Lights shimmered like stars below, and Ethan realized that this was more than a mission. This was a chance for two species and two people to learn from each other. Leora had arrived as a supposed joke, yet she was proving herself to be exactly what humanity needed, someone who could bridge worlds, challenge assumptions, and reveal the true value of a person. You have surprised me, Ethan said softly, watching the city lights reflect in her eyes. And you have surprised me, Leora replied. I expected humans to be cautious, perhaps fearful, maybe even dismissive. Instead, I see courage, kindness, and honesty. You are everything your species says it is, and more. And we have much to teach and to learn from each other. I will remember this always. What was meant to embarrass humanity was instead forming a bridge between worlds. And through it all, Ethan saw a glimpse of something unexpected, something that went beyond duty, beyond curiosity, beyond the mission itself. There was connection, there was admiration, and perhaps in time there could even be love. But for now, it was enough to see the universe together, to learn from each other, and to laugh at the absurdity of the Emperor's joke. For Ethan and Leora, the first week had been just the beginning, and the possibilities ahead seemed limitless. Humanity had seen the true value of a person, and Leora had discovered that she could be more than a gift or a joke. She could be herself, admired for what truly mattered. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if acknowledging the start of a remarkable friendship, and perhaps a remarkable story that neither species would ever forget. The calm days of exploration and learning were suddenly interrupted. A warning flashed across the human command console. A rogue faction of alien ships was approaching the outer colonies. They were remnants of a Zorathian rebellion, long thought defeated, who saw the gift of the princess as weakness. Their ships moved fast, aggressive in formation, and they were well armed. Ethan Hale immediately called a meeting in the command center. Leora, ever curious and alert, was by his side. These are not diplomats, Ethan explained to her. They intend to attack. Their goal is to disrupt any hope of peace between us and the Zorathians. We'll have to anticipate their moves and use the environment to our advantage. Leora, arriving as a gift, was now offering practical combat strategies. Ethan nodded, feeling both pride and relief. Then that's the plan. We draw them in, then use our advantage. She pointed out patterns in the enemy movements that even the seasoned human officers had not noticed. They always keep the central ship slightly behind the others. That means they are relying on it to issue commands. If we isolate it, the rest will scatter. Laser beams streaked across the void, and the hum of energy shields filled the control room. Ethan directed the fleet, while Leora calmly adjusted tactics in real time, her mind moving faster than the enemy could predict. Slowly, the human ships gained the upper hand, using the asteroid field as Leora had advised. The enemy was forced into tight paths, and their numbers became less of an advantage. After hours of careful maneuvering, the central ship of the rogue faction was isolated. The remaining enemy vessels hesitated, unsure what to do. Leora suggested a bold move, disable their central ship without destroying it to minimize loss of life but prove humanity's strength. Ethan hesitated, considering the risk, but nodded. "Prepare the iron net," he ordered. "We'll trap the central ship without lethal force." The battle was over with minimal casualties, thanks to quick thinking, teamwork, and a little daring strategy. The crew erupted in cheers, congratulating each other, but their eyes kept returning to Leora. She had predicted moves, analyzed enemy patterns, and offered solutions that saved countless lives. Ethan stood beside her, feeling a quiet sense of admiration. She was not just intelligent, she was brave, resourceful, and calm under pressure. The joke that the Emperor had sent was now a symbol of human triumph. Later, when the excitement had settled, Ethan and Leora walked to a quiet observation deck overlooking the battlefield. The stars seemed calm again, though the scars of the conflict lingered. Leora leaned on the railing, her expression thoughtful. "They expected me to embarrass humanity," she said softly. "Instead, we've shown them our strength, not just force, but cleverness and unity. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we adapt, we learn, and we care for each other." He realized that their bond had deepened through the trial, but not just because of victory. It was the trust, the shared risk, and the understanding that each valued the other's judgment and presence. In the following days, the fleet returned to the colonies to ensure stability. Leora accompanied Ethan to meet local governors and scientists, offering her insights and learning about human culture in the process. Wherever she went, she was greeted with curiosity and respect. People had seen her during the crisis and realized that her value went far beyond appearances. Ethan noticed the subtle way Leora interacted with everyone. She asked questions that encouraged discussion, listened carefully to each answer, and even gently corrected misconceptions without arrogance. She had a way of making people feel both confident and inspired. The humans around her began to see what Ethan had known all along. The princess was extraordinary. One evening, as they returned to the command center, Leora stopped and looked at Ethan. "You know," she said, "my father sent me here thinking he would embarrass your people, but I see now that he has underestimated both of us. And now I see that humans, at least you, excel at these things." Ethan and Leora studied the readings carefully, preparing strategies to prevent future attacks. Leora's analysis was precise. If they attempt to regroup, they will likely aim for weak points, areas with minimal defense. We can set traps in those sectors to deter them. It is clever, efficient, and safe. Then we'll implement your plan immediately. That night, after the final adjustments were made, Ethan and Leora stood alone in the observation deck, looking at the stars. "You've changed how humans see the Zorathians," Ethan said quietly. "Your actions, your insight, they've built trust and admiration. You're not just a visitor, you're a bridge between worlds. I came thinking I was a pawn, but now I see that I can choose my path. I can be valued for who I am, not for what others expect." There was a comfort in the silence, a quiet bond that had grown stronger through danger and collaboration. Neither needed to speak to know that something important had formed, a connection that transcended duty or protocol. In the following days, Ethan observed a change in both humans and Zorathians. The story of the battle spread quickly, highlighting Leora's contributions. Humans began to appreciate her presence, while some Zorathians who had initially doubted her now respected her abilities. She became a symbol of potential, intelligence, and courage, the very qualities the Emperor had thought would embarrass humanity. Through it all, Ethan and Leora continued to learn from each other. They debated strategy, shared stories, and sometimes laughed at the absurdity of interstellar politics. Leora's humor, intelligence, and warmth made even the most tense situations manageable. She was no longer a gift or a joke. She was a valued ally, a friend, and someone who had begun to matter deeply to Ethan. One evening, after reviewing defense plans, Leora turned to him with a teasing smile. "You humans are amusing. You call yourselves fragile, yet you adapt faster than anyone else I have met. You fight with your minds, your hearts, and your determination. I like that. Not just because of strength or skill, but because of your spirit. That is something my father cannot understand, and perhaps never will." Leora's presence highlighted those qualities in ways no one had anticipated. As the days passed, the bond between Ethan and Leora continued to grow. They shared quiet moments of conversation, laughter, and reflection. The crisis had brought them together, but it was their mutual respect, curiosity, and admiration that formed the true connection. Both realized that their meeting, initially meant to be a joke, had become something profound and meaningful. In the calm of the observation deck, Ethan finally understood the truth. The Emperor's plan had failed spectacularly. But in that failure, something remarkable had begun. A friendship, a partnership, and perhaps, in time, a deeper bond that neither species could have anticipated. Humanity had faced the stars, and in doing so had found not just allies but someone who could see their true worth, and someone who had already begun to see the worth in them. The stars stretched endlessly above, each one a reminder that the universe was vast, full of surprises, and waiting for humans to rise to its challenges. And with Leora by his side, Ethan knew that humanity was ready for whatever came next, because they had courage, intelligence, and the ability to see value where others saw only flaws. The calm that followed the skirmish was short-lived. Word of the human victory over the rogue faction had reached the Zarathian Empire, and the Emperor was furious. He had sent his daughter, Princess Leora, as a joke, a test, a mockery, and instead, humans had proven themselves clever, capable, and respectful of her abilities. His humiliation was complete, and yet he could not intervene directly without drawing attention to his own failure. Ethan Hale and Leora prepared for a diplomatic reception arranged to discuss future human-Zarathian relations. The event was formal, attended by human officials, scientists, and several high-ranking Zarathian delegates who had come to observe Leora. The Emperor's intention was clear: show the galaxy that the gift he sent had failed, that humans were not to be trusted, and that Leora's presence was inconsequential. Yet, as Leora entered the grand hall with Ethan at her side, it became immediately apparent that things would not go as the Emperor expected. She moved with confidence, smiling and greeting each person she passed. Her laughter was warm and infectious, her curiosity genuine, and her intelligence unmistakable. People were drawn to her naturally. Humans and Zarathians alike could not ignore the presence of someone who radiated respect, confidence, and charm. During the reception, the human ambassador invited Leora to speak about her experiences with humanity. She began hesitantly, then grew bolder as she realized the attention was sincere. "When I arrived," she said, "I thought I would be a curiosity, a joke, a test. Instead, I have learned about courage, ingenuity, and the way humans value one another. I have seen their strength not in weapons, but in their minds and hearts. That is more powerful than any fleet, more enduring than any empire." Ethan watched her closely, noting how her words were shaping perceptions, challenging biases, and fostering respect. The princess who had arrived as a joke was now the voice of reason, a symbol of intelligence and cooperation. The Emperor's aides, attending remotely through holographic surveillance, reported back in panic. "She is captivating them," one whispered. This was supposed to be a humiliation. How is she respected? She asked questions about human projects, listened to the ideas of scientists, and gently proposed improvements or alternatives. She did not dominate the conversation, but instead encouraged collaboration, making everyone feel valued. Ethan noticed how the humans responded to her. Engineers and officers who had been nervous or self-conscious now spoke confidently, sharing their ideas and learning from her feedback. Even Zarathians who had come with the expectation of witnessing a failure were now intrigued, some nodding thoughtfully at her suggestions. During a brief moment alone in the hall, Leora turned to Ethan. "Your people surprise me every day," she said softly. "I expected fear, hesitation, perhaps mockery. Instead, I see determination, courage, and intelligence. You see value where others only see flaws. That is remarkable. And you, Princess Leora, have proven yourself beyond what anyone could have predicted." His image projected into the hall, towering and severe. "Princess Leora," he said, his voice cold, "you were sent to test the humans. You were expected to be a curiosity. I see now that my expectations were wrong. I hope my presence has shown you that even in jest, one can find truth." After the formal speeches, Ethan and Leora took a walk along the spaceport's upper terraces. The night was calm, stars glittering above, reflecting in the sleek surfaces of ships docked nearby. The city below glowed softly, a reminder of human perseverance and creativity. "You've changed more than perceptions," Ethan said quietly. "You've changed the course of diplomacy, the way humans and Zarathians see each other. You've inspired people. But I see now that even a joke can lead to something meaningful if one chooses to act wisely. You've shown that humans and aliens can work together, respect each other, and value what truly matters." It was no longer simply about duty. It was about trust, admiration, and something quietly growing between them. The next morning, they returned to the command center to review intelligence about the rogue faction. Leora had been eager to study the data, analyzing patterns and predicting potential threats. Ethan observed her carefully, impressed by her methodical approach. "You think they might regroup?" Ethan said, pointing to the latest sensor readings. "They are cautious now," Leora replied. "But they may attempt a new attack in areas where defenses are weak. We can anticipate them, though. Humans have adaptability, and I can help you predict their next move. Together, we can ensure safety." "Your insights are invaluable." Later, Ethan found a quiet moment to speak with her privately. "You've handled this situation better than anyone could have imagined," he said. "Your father may think this was a joke, but you've shown strength, wisdom, and heart. And I wanted to see humans for what they truly are. You have exceeded my expectations." In the following days, as diplomatic meetings continued, Leora remained a bridge between worlds. Her presence encouraged cooperation, fostered understanding, and highlighted human qualities that the Emperor had underestimated: courage, intelligence, empathy, and resilience. Humans began to see themselves reflected in her respect, while she learned to appreciate their ingenuity, humor, and heart. One afternoon, while walking through the gardens, Ethan asked her about her life aboard the Zorathian fleet. She laughed, describing strict routines, rigorous training, and the Emperor's high expectations. "It was all serious, all rules," she said. "I had to hide my humor, my curiosity, even my opinions. Here I am allowed to be myself. That is liberating." "You deserve to be yourself. You've earned respect, not because of appearance, but because of your mind and character." The Emperor's intentions had failed spectacularly, yet through the failure, a stronger understanding had emerged. Humans and Zorathians now had a foundation of trust, and Leora had become a symbol of that change. Ethan turned to her. "You've shown me something important as well. Even when expectations are set, even when others try to define you, what matters is who you choose to be and how you act. You've proven that in every way. That is rare in the galaxy." As night fell, the stars shimmered like diamonds, reminding them that the universe was vast, full of surprises, and waiting for those willing to see value beyond appearances. Leora's journey, once meant as a joke, had become a story of growth, trust, and unexpected admiration. And for Ethan, the realization was clear. The princess had not only changed how humans saw Zorathians, but she had also changed the way he saw possibility, connection, and perhaps even love. The stars were quiet that evening, stretching endlessly over the human spaceport like a vast ocean of light. Commander Ethan Hale stood on the observation deck, gazing at the constellations and reflecting on the events of the past weeks. Humanity had faced danger, diplomacy, and the unexpected challenge of hosting Princess Leora, the gift sent by the Zorathian Emperor as a joke. Yet in all of this, humans had risen to the occasion, proving their courage, intelligence, and heart. Leora appeared beside him, her presence calm but radiant. She leaned slightly on the railing, her eyes following the same stars Ethan studied. "It is strange," she said softly. "I came thinking I would be a mockery, a test, perhaps a nuisance. And now," she paused, smiling, "now I see I am part of something larger, something meaningful." "You've been more than that," he said quietly. "You've shown everyone the true value of a person, not appearances, not expectations, but character, courage, and heart. You see what matters, and that is beautiful." Earth's colonies were safe, and the cooperation with Zorathians had laid a foundation for mutual trust. The Emperor, watching remotely, was quiet. His expectations of embarrassment had been crushed. Instead, he saw his daughter as a bridge between two civilizations and humanity, as a species that thrived not only through skill and technology, but through heart, empathy, and ingenuity. It was a lesson in humility, one that his pride struggled to accept. Ethan and Leora were called to a final diplomatic meeting. The human ambassador, the Zorathian delegates, and senior officials from both sides gathered in the grand hall. The room was tense, filled with anticipation. This would be the moment where the Emperor would finally respond to the unexpected outcomes of his plan. Leora stepped forward confidently, addressing both humans and aliens. "Our collaboration over the past weeks has shown what can be achieved when we value intelligence, courage, and understanding over appearance or expectation. Humans and Zorathians may be different, but we can learn from each other, grow together, and protect what we cherish." Even the Zorathian delegates were visibly moved, many glancing at their emperor with unspoken acknowledgement. The Emperor's holographic image appeared, his expression stern but thoughtful. "Princess Leora," he said, "you were sent to test humanity. You were expected to fail or embarrass yourself. Yet what I see is a demonstration of collaboration, wisdom, and respect. You have exceeded all expectations. I hope you see that this outcome is not failure, but proof that respect and understanding can create bonds stronger than fear or judgment." His joke had failed, but in failing, it had revealed the best of both worlds. After the meeting, Ethan and Leora walked together through the quiet halls of the spaceport. The lights of ships docked in the bays reflected softly against the polished floors, a reminder of human achievement and cooperation. "You've changed a lot of perceptions," Ethan said. "Not just for the humans, but for Zorathians too. You've shown that what truly matters is inside, not outside." The bond between them had grown steadily, nurtured by mutual respect, shared challenges, and subtle moments of laughter and understanding. It was a connection that neither had expected but both valued deeply. Eventually, they reached the observation deck again, looking out over the city lights below. Ethan gestured toward the glowing towers and quiet streets. "This is what we protect. Not just buildings, not just technology, but people, dreams, and possibilities. That is what makes humanity strong. You've been part of that too. You've helped us see our own strengths, and in the process, you've shown your own." Days passed as humans and Zorathians worked together to solidify alliances and strengthen defenses. Leora continued to play a key role, providing insight, encouraging collaboration, and building trust. Her presence was no longer seen as unusual or surprising. She was valued for her mind, her character, and her leadership. Ethan found himself spending more time with her, discussing tactics, cultural exchanges, and even the simple beauty of life on Earth. They shared meals, watched sunsets, and walked among the gardens, learning about each other's worlds and perspectives. Each conversation deepened their understanding, each moment built trust, and each shared laugh strengthened their bond. One evening, while the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet, Leora turned to Ethan. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if I had been sent elsewhere? If I had not met you, not seen humans as I have?" The Emperor may have intended a joke, but we made it meaningful. We learned, we adapted, and we grew. And perhaps that is what makes life worth living, the choices we make, the connections we form, and the courage to see what truly matters. Perhaps it is the start of something new, something beyond expectation. The following weeks were filled with preparation for a joint human-Zorathian exploration mission, aimed at mapping new star systems and establishing peaceful contact with other civilizations. Leora and Ethan worked side by side, planning routes, studying star charts, and coordinating teams. Their collaboration was seamless, built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared goals. During one long night in the observation deck, surrounded by the soft hum of the spaceport and the distant glimmer of stars, Leora spoke softly. "I have learned so much here, about humans, about myself, and about what is truly important. I never expected this journey to be so transformative. You've taught me patience, insight, and the value of seeing the world through someone else's eyes. And you've shown me that sometimes the most unexpected events lead to the greatest discoveries. That worth is not defined by expectation, that connection can form in the most unlikely ways, and that courage, heart, and understanding are the true measures of strength." Leora and Ethan prepared to travel to new star systems, not as diplomat and guest, but as partners, explorers, and friends who had learned to trust and value each other. Their bond had grown beyond duty, beyond curiosity. It was now a connection rooted in admiration, respect, and the quiet potential for love. On the day of departure, the fleet gathered at the launch bay. Humans and Zorathians stood side by side, preparing for the mission that would take them further into the galaxy than ever before. Ethan and Leora stood together, watching the preparations, feeling the weight of the moment and the excitement of what lay ahead. "You're ready for this," Ethan said quietly. "So are you," Leora replied, squeezing his hand gently. "Together we can face anything." Leora was not just a gift, not just a test. She was a partner, a friend, and someone who had changed the course of human and Zorathian relations. And perhaps he thought quietly she had changed his own course as well. The stars stretched ahead, vast and unending, and humanity had proven once again that courage, intelligence, and heart could overcome any expectation. And among them, Leora had found her place, not as a joke, but as someone who mattered, who was valued, and who had discovered that love, friendship, and respect could bloom in the most unexpected ways. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment and the hope it carried. Together, they would explore the galaxy, build alliances, and face whatever challenges came next. And through it all, they would carry the lesson that had guided them from the beginning. True worth is measured by the heart, the mind, and the courage to act, and sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead to the greatest rewards. The stars shone above, infinite and bright, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt the full weight of possibility. Humanity was ready, the universe was waiting, and Leora was by his side. And perhaps in time they would learn that the greatest adventure of all was not the stars, but the connection they had formed and the love that had quietly begun to grow between them.